Hi, I'm Susan Bratton, and I'm here with Jim Benson. Jim is one of the personal life media coaches for our coaching program, and I wanted you to get to know how amazing he is and all of the things that he's done today. So I really appreciate you tuning into this video. If you have an interest in Jim, you will not be disappointed. What an amazing man. I am so thankful that Jim is one of the coaches that represents my brand, our company, and takes care of the people who follow us and like the way we are in the world. Because Jim is a remarkably wonderful, amazing, solid, smart guy who just wants to help you. He, like we share a kinship in wanting to support people in their sexual awakening, in their sexual empowerment, in feeling their connection to other and to themselves through their bodies and the spirit that's in our sexuality. And on this conversation that I'm having with Jim Benson today, what we're going to do is talk about three people that he's helped. You know, kind of not typical, because nobody's typical, everybody's different, but a wide range of different people, a man, a woman, and a couple that Jim has had transformational experiences with, who he's been able to guide into having more of what they desire. And then we'll talk a little bit about Jim's history and his credentials and you know, that piece of it, so you can also feel comfortable that he's legit. So, Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Susan. What a nice introduction. I hope I can live up to it.
You know, it's funny, I was lying in bed this morning thinking about this interview that we're having today, and just thinking about how incredibly happy I am as I've gotten to know you over the last just couple years, how much you've come to mean to me, how impressed I've been with who you are as a person, the kinds of skills and techniques and experience that you bring to coaching men, women, and couples. And you're just a perfect fit for us. And so I'm really glad to be like interviewing you about our coaching program, to be able to launch this together, and to be able to say that Jim Benson is a personal life media coach. I mean, that's just, that feels to me like I've hit another level of being able to help people in my business. So I'm glad you're here. I know that you have three stories to tell, and that's most of what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about a woman you helped, a man you helped, and a couple you helped. Who would you like to start with?
Let's start with a man.
Okay, that sounds good. Tell us the story, Uncle Jimmy.
This was a guy who called me up because he had just finished a rocky divorce. And his wife, I wouldn't say left him in tatters. I mean, financially, of course, there were issues, but emotionally, she had really beaten him up, and his confidence was really taking a bruising. Yeah. So he felt like he was not confident in bed, that he didn't really have much to offer a woman, and he told me some of the things she said. So part of what my work was initially was saying, look, that, you know, she was upset, like try to give him some perspective on what she had said to him. But he had real problems also. So he ejaculated really quickly. Sometimes he couldn't get hard. He kind of didn't know what to do in bed. He had only had two partners before his wife, and he'd been married for 10 years. So he kind of, you know, he
just didn't have experience.
Yeah.
That's nobody's fault.
Yeah.
Guys take that very hard, though. Why do guys feel like they should know?
It's crazy, isn't it? Like you should just be able to put on skis and go downhill like a you know, like a Olympic skier, right? Doing grand slalom. No, you need training. You need to educate yourself. So that's what I did with him. Just like taught him how to, you know, find his way around a pussy. Yeah. Told him that he didn't need to be on Viagra or Cialis, because he felt like he had to do that if he was going on a date. He had to be like all cranked up and could be willing to perform. And I was like, no, just relax and be yourself. So I worked with him quite a bit on some of the psychological aspects of learning to feel really confident in who he was as a man, but also did some very practical exercises with him around learning to last longer in bed. I have a whole program around that.
That's the stamina secret.
The multi-orgasmic lover.
And multi-orgasmic lover. Both of those.
Both of those, yeah. So So progress was a little slow at first. He was like a little hesitant, and then he just kind of jumped on board and was like, "Wait, I think that's like the stone rolling down the hill, gathering the moss, or something like that, the snowball effect." And so about halfway through our coaching sessions, he was totally into it. I think he was really starting to see results with women he was dating, and feeling like, "I've got this." So I'd say after about 6 months, he was like calling me up saying, "We're done. You know, the woman I'm with is so happy. She says that I'm the best lover she's ever had."
Great.
So he was really, I would say that's my poster boy for a success story of someone who came in with a lot of issues, and seemingly in a very short period of time moved on to a place where he felt like, "I'm a rock star in the bedroom, baby."
So it seems like a lot of what you do is a balance of therapeutic conversation, education, like filling in the gaps of what people have missed or never been told. And also giving them an action plan.
Yes.
Can you maybe just give us an example of one of each of those things that you did with this particular man that had a really profound effect? Like one of the things you said was, I taught him his way around a pussy.
Yeah.
How did you do that? And what were maybe a couple other things that you specifically helped this particular man with that were really like pivoting points for him?
Right. He didn't really know how to go down on a woman. And he was like, so I started to talk to him about it. He was really shy about even discussing it. And then finally, the more I talked about it, he was like, "Well, I don't really know what I'm doing down there. I just kind of lick around." And at some point, she kind of pulls me up. And I'm like, "All right, you got fired, buddy."
Ouch!
That was. So we laughed about it, and then I said, "Okay, so here's what you need to do." So just to describe to him, how it works, and telling him, there's eventually getting to the point where he could give a woman an orgasm with 2 fingers inside of her while licking her clit. So he's rubbing her G spot with his fingers. He's licking her clit, and she's extremely happy with this. And he's like, "Yeah, she had an orgasm." And so that's at the very practical level, how to in that way. But I think some of what you call therapeutic coaching is a lot of it is just learning to talk about challenging things or difficult things. So to be able to have a conversation about, how do you like to be touched? How do I like to be touched? So for him to just start having conversations in bed with somebody, and it helped for him to have conversations with me.
Yeah, it's good practice.
So I'm talking to him about sexual topics, and he's like, "Oh God, can I say those words? Or if I said that, wouldn't she freak out?" And I'm like, "No, she'd be so happy that you're actually addressing an issue that's important to her. It's going to go really well." And it turned out that it did. So those are those things. And then there was another thing you wanted me to talk about in terms of like practical
action plan. Like how is he getting to date so many women with all this anxiety? You said his ex-wife had really taken some really nasty parting shots and kicked his confidence down. How was he able to transition into dating and getting all this practice?
A lot of it was telling him to just start to notice available women and how to start conversations with them. So he's like, "Yeah, well, I thought of going to yoga class." And I was like, "Great idea. Here's how you talk to a woman after a yoga class." And here's how you start a conversation in a supermarket with somebody. And so I just got him in the practice of starting to flirt, even with women he wasn't attracted to, the checker at the store or whatever, but just to kind of warm up his flirting engine, so that now he's like just talking to people. And so when he met a woman who he thought was really beautiful or attractive, he wasn't just like, they're
the hardest ones to talk to, because you just get so tongue-tied when you see the one that's really, really attractive to you. They're the ones that's the scariest one.
That's right. So he was a little deer in the headlights in those moments. And so just to get him to have conversation openers with women, and so he felt like, so if I set an action plan to say, "Okay, you need to talk to 3 strange women in the next week," and that it's not it's not going to be something that you would normally do. You're going to go outside of your comfort zone and report back to me. So that would be something that we would do, where we're making him go out and meet women and kind of repattern himself.
Yeah, that's so good. I really like the action plan of coaching as different than the non-action plan in some ways of therapy, where therapy seems to be mining your history. Coaching is, okay, where are you right now? what do we need to, what do we need to fill the holes in? What do we need to put the salve on? How do you need to be heard to overcome any shame you had? How do we need to fix the ignorance? Or, you were saying, Jim, that you grew up in a family that just like didn't talk about sex
At all.
right? I mean, it was like you had to overcome a lot of shame and ignorance yourself. So you really have a lot of empathy about this, right?
Totally. And I had very little sexual experience until my early 20s. Yeah. So I was like, I had maybe 6 dates in my teenage years, and none of them were successful at all. Yeah. They were all first dates. So I feel like I have a lot of empathy for people who just didn't have it together and weren't like natural, sexual powerhouses right out the gate. So
which is most people.
Yeah.
People think everyone else is having all this great sex, and everybody thinks everyone else is good, and I'm the only one that's like having a lot of first dates, not having any experience, growing up in a household that's taciturn. The last generation, the subsequent generations, our parents and our parents' parents didn't talk about sex. They were taciturn. They weren't emotional. They weren't loving. We are becoming a more loving culture and race.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they hold on to, this anger and upset at their parents when their parents were just doing the best they could do. They were doing what was happening at the time. And once you find, okay, well, I'll just now move forward with my coach. Your coach almost in some ways gives you the parenting that you've missed, which is one of the things that I love about coaching.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Susan. I feel like I offer that to a lot of people, and especially I'm just thinking of the woman that I worked with.
Yeah, let's segue into the story of the woman, because I remember you telling me one time about a woman, and I don't know if it's this woman or I bet you do this a lot, where you're like the father, the boyfriend, the guy who reflects back to them what a good and solid man who's fully confident of how your sexuality is a positive thing and can reflect back those good things to a woman.
Totally, yeah. It's like a healthy masculine role model.
Yes, exactly. I love that. And boy, I couldn't imagine a more healthy masculine role model than you, Jim. So I'm really, again, glad that you're here for all of the women and the men who need that. So tell us the story of the woman that you had, a sample of a woman you had a transformational experience with, because I know this is what you do.
Yeah. She's a single woman, had been single for quite a while, actually.
You said she was in her 40s?
Yeah, early 40s. And her story that she had was, there's no good men out there. And that kind of kept repeating itself. It kept manifesting in different ways. So she would complain. She would like always attract like really young guys who couldn't commit. And then they would break her heart, and it turns out that they weren't appropriate for her at all.
Sure.
And but she just didn't get that. She didn't know why those men were coming into her life. So I worked both at the internal level and then at more the external level. So like, who are the guys that she could be meeting, and what would that guy be like? And then I worked around belief systems around not deserving and that kind of stuff. And I think that's actually a lot of the deepest work that I do with women, is helping them realize that they deserve it. I think a lot of women have a tape or some story that they have inside of them, like, I'm not deserving of really great love in my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how does that get in there?
Or actually sometimes it gets confused, like I'm worthy of a love, but it comes along with this other stuff that looks like abuse or somebody stepping on me, but I love them. So there's kind of a little bit of a victim mentality, I think, in some women. And I think it's just a historical thing, like what you were raised with. If you had any kind of abusive parent, father, older brother,
uncle, cousin, boyfriend, you name it. Yeah. I mean, I've heard figures as high as 30% of men and women have had some kind of sexual abuse. And then you add on top of that sexual shame. And then you layer on top of that total ignorance and lack of support.
Yep.
And then you add on top of that only seeing the sex of pornography.
Yeah.
And then you add on top of that all the crap in media and the movies and how horribly sex is portrayed. Like, I struggle to find a single media thing that shows positive sexuality besides like really good Tantra CDs and things like that,
Well, yeah, that's why I love the work that you're doing. I mean, the new series that you have out with
Steamy Sex Ed.
Yeah, that is like great stuff.
Thank you.
Oh, thank God Susan is getting this out to the world.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I want to come back to Tantra too when we talk a little bit about who you are and your, kind of biography, because I think Tantra is a very, people have heard of the Kama Sutra, but Tantra is something that's very foreign to most people. They're not really quite sure what it is. And because you are a teach the teacher, train the trainer, senior level Tantra teacher, I really want you to define that at the end of this. But let's get back to this woman who's had some deservingness, some victimization. Right. You changed her beliefs. You worked on her self-esteem. So that was kind of the therapeutic piece. What did you do to get her to feel deserving?
For her in particular, I used successes that she had had in life earlier that were non-sex related and brought them into the sexual arena.
Huh.
I also just let her know, because when I saw things that she was doing for herself that were positive and esteem building, I made sure to point those out to her.
Yeah.
Because she was doing things. It's like the mind is crazy, right? The mind is like telling you that things are true and they're just not.
Yeah.
So I was just reflecting back to her things that she was doing or saying to me, and I would say, "Oh, do you notice how you just made yourself worthwhile there?" Or that you really do deserve it, and you just showed me right now. And so it started to sink into her at this very primal level, right? Repeated over and over, and it sank down and down and down, and all of a sudden she was like, "I think I got this." It was like a little light switch went on somehow inside of her.
Yeah, it was in there.
Yeah.
All you need is within you now.
That's exactly.
That's that Tony Robbins saying, and it's so powerful.
Yeah. So within I think about a month of like the little switch happening, she reported that this guy from Australia had called, like she had met this guy, she was ready to move to Australia.
Well, those Aussies are so sexy.
And lived at Byron Bay with him, and she had like things like this before, but there was something about this in the way that she described the guy. It was like, this is the guy that she had written about, that we had talked about in one of our initial sessions. Like, who is it that you wanted? It had checked all the boxes on the list.
The characteristics that she wanted.
Yes.
And also met her values.
Values. That's
right. The relationship values. That's a big thing that we are really getting behind this year, is teaching people that characteristics are one thing, but the values, the matching of the values, and not even that they have to be the same, but understanding each other's values is so important. So you help people with their values elicitation, understanding what it is that they really, truly want.
Yes.
That's so helpful.
And then I'm like the North Star for them. I'm like holding that for them. Like, here we are. And they're, when the confusion comes up, or not certain, maybe he's not right for me, is like, let's hone in on those values that were so important to you.
Yeah.
How is he meeting those values? And so when we were checking all the boxes, I was like, you're good to go, girl.
Nice.
So that was our last session.
Very rewarding. Yeah, it's so funny. You're in the business of working yourself out of business, aren't you? But that being said, you only have so much time in a day, and you do have a busy schedule. And that scarcity that I harp on when I communicate about our coaching program is real. You only have a certain number of slots every single week that you can do. Take a second now and talk about how you work with your clients. Is it on a Skype call like we're doing right now? Is it phone calls? How do you work with most of your clients? Because you work with people all over. They can be anywhere in the world, right?
Yeah. And I do. So mostly it's on the phone for me. I like to do an initial Skype call just so I can see face-to-face who the person is. But when I work, I like to pace around a lot. I do my best work when I'm walking, or I'm gesturing crazily, or banging my head on the wall, or whatever. And I'd rather do that not on the Skype, not face to face. So
Okay, good. So phone calls are really easy for people,
Yeah.
which makes it great. All right, so let's take the third story, and this one
Yeah.
is of a couple. So it's not just a one-on-one process for you. You also have the ability to work with people together. And I would imagine that lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, genderqueer, heterosexual,
Like,
homosexual, anything
bring
that
it
you
on.
want to be. What?
I'm like, bring it
Bring it
on.
on. You have no problem with people in
Yeah.
any kind of relationship, in any kind of
Yeah.
situation. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. In
Great.
fact, this couple, at one point in their development, I guess I'll get to that a little more, but they decided they wanted to open their relationship up and be with other couples.
Because they
And
became on such solid footing themselves that you
that's
felt that it
right.
was safe enough for them to open up to have
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was actually following their desires.
Yeah.
But they had such a stable foundation.
Yeah.
First, they'd been together for 13 years. And even though they were in kind of a relationship flat line, there was not a lot of sexual juice between them. The woman opened up first. She started having G-spot orgasms because of what I was talking to her about. And then the guy was feeling a little left out. And I had a couple of one-on-one sessions with him, just the two of us, so he could to kind of build his confidence a little more, because now he was with the sexual powerhouse.
Yes.
Maybe you know a
Right.
little bit of what that's like, Susan.
It takes a very strong, sexually confident man to allow his woman to open to her sexual potential.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So guys need some support with that.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then he kind of got on board. And so both of them started having multiple orgasmic experiences.
Nice.
And they're just like, wow, it was so satisfying for them. And after doing that for a little bit and kind of coaching them through that, they're like, well, what's next?
Yeah.
And they started being interested in being with another couple. Yeah. And they were very particular. It wasn't like, we're going to go to the swingers party. It was more like, no, we're just going to find somebody where it's a good match for us.
Yeah.
And it feels really safe. And these are people who we want to build a family with or be friends with for the rest of our lives. So they had a very kind of a specific plan.
Great.
Like, let's open this up in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And so I was able to kind of coach them through that whole cycle of that.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So you took a couple that had essentially had a relationship where they were bored with each other, their sex was no good. Like, describe where they were. Because I think that's, of course, a super common thing.
Yeah, they had, you could say that she was kind of like the yoni right behind you there. It was like a little frozen, the frozen yoni.
You're going to have to get, whoops, it's my little thing. This is my friend Damien's. This is called the fertility seed. People ask me about this a lot because they see it on the shelf by my video. And we were laughing. You've got to hold up your lingam.
All right,
hold up your lingam. This is too funny. Here it comes. So Jim has this thing, a you explain what a lingam is. This is a Sanskrit word, right?
Yeah, lingam is Sanskrit for, it's also called a vajra. Vajra, yeah. And it's a word for penis or cock. And these are found in a river that actually, it's just over time that they're made this way.
Wow.
The river, the action of the river molds them into this, and they're called Shiva lingams in India. So it's a symbol of male fertility, male power.
And this, of course, is the yoni made by my friend Damien, who is an artist, and I donated to his Kickstarter fund, and he made me this beautiful fertility seed, which, of course, looks like a yoni. And we were laughing that your hard lingam and my hard yoni, you know, we got to soften these things up. This is very soft, actually. That's so funny that we both have our little representational example of genitalia.
Right.
Well, this is what we do, Jimmy, isn't it? It's what we love.
I like it.
So they were as hard as your lingam and my fertility seed, huh? They were just not, it wasn't happening for them.
It was just kind of flatline. They had 3 kids. You know, a lot of their attention was on his career and then her just being a housewife. And it was just like, la, 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 things are going fine. We're just not really having much sex.
Right.
And then she kind of, but I think the impetus was that they felt like there just needed to be something more. They were like, we imagine that there's more out here. Like, I think one of them just got frustrated at some point. Like, damn it, I don't want to settle for this anymore. And then from there, her awakening and his awakening, it just started this powerful effect of it just kind of recaptured the honeymoon phase of their relationship.
Oh yeah.
And And so all of a sudden they're totally hot for each other.
Yeah.
But they also had this great, foundation of 13 years together.
Yeah.
So that they love each other so deeply. And from that stable base, then they could go on to open up to being with other people.
I read a book just recently that was for people who had come through a divorce and they wanted to date again. And I don't want to mention the name of the book because I was very disappointed at the end of the book. The author was saying, now, when you find this new person, even if they're better than your last person, the passion isn't going to last forever. And her recommendation literally was to get a dog. And I thought to myself, well, any fool can apparently write a book, because I don't buy that at all. I believe that any couple can re-spark their relationship. When guys write to me and say, oh yeah, all those success stories that you put out about Revive Her Drive, well, my wife is, she's the exception to the rule. She doesn't talk about sex at all, and she doesn't have anybody to talk about it with. And, I was like, okay, well, first of all, she could be talking about it with you. You could be the one talking about it with her. Mm-hmm. And expecting her to, just suddenly awaken her sexuality is absolutely the opposite. You've got to make it easy for her to open to you, and you too anybody can have a great sex life again, as long as they're both willing to try. And even if the woman in this case is not, and it can be equally the man, is not willing to try, that's where a coach comes in so well, because you can work with them on overcoming limiting beliefs, mm-hmm. getting past shame, filling in the voids of ignorance, mm-hmm. and creating that safe container for a couple to be wherever they are, mm-hmm. and to start moving slowly forward and appreciating the movement that's occurring. And so for those guys that write to me, and for those women who write to me and say, I've tried everything, which they haven't. They've only tried a couple things, and they've gotten, slapped down and frustrated and upset. This is exactly why Jim is here. This is exactly why you can't always fix it yourself. You need the support of someone with an external perspective and both the right therapy piece of it and the right coaching and action steps to move you out of this stuck place and move you forward into what it is that you both will be so happy to have. So, I couldn't believe get a dog. Oy vey. Get a dog. This is a woman who has given up her passion. Obviously, she doesn't believe that it's possible to keep, not only to keep the romance alive in a relationship, but to get it to the point where it just continues to get better and better and better. There are fundamental skills, which is exactly what we teach, you and I both, that allow you to lay in that base, that support structure. Then as a couple, there's no end to how wonderful your sex life can continue to get. It gets better and better and better. That's the great thing about sex. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those asymptotic things. It just literally can always continue to improve. Even if every once in a while you have a little setback or mm-hmm. physical health issues or things like that, there is still a wide possibility.
Yeah, like I call it sometimes the glass ceiling that you hit against, mm-hmm. and you're like, oh, this is pleasure is as good as it's going to get, and you're like banging up against the ceiling, right? And then you're like, well, what would be even more than that? Like mm-hmm. how to get people to think beyond what they're currently experiencing into some other realm.
Yeah,
because it is possible.
Yeah, and it seems like once you kind of get on that upward pleasure spiral, it's absolutely possible for your own internal appetite and desire to move you forward. There's a point at which you just naturally think up new stuff you want to try. Yes. It just, your appetite becomes one where, sex just tastes good and you want to sample more things. Like your couple that had so much sexual confidence and pleasure with each other that they wanted to expand from there. Now that's a very far way from where most people are. But that's where you can go if it's of interest to you. It could be something completely different that's of interest to you. There is a smorgasbord within the sexual realm. And I want to segue into Tantra at this moment. I want to get into, and thank you for telling us the stories of some of the people that you've helped. You're such a lovely man. I can imagine that people just really enjoy working with you, and that I can't imagine what could make a person feel better than that kind of personal, private momentum that they get in their very private of private lives. It's very rewarding. So I want to get into your background, and I really want to start with the work you've done in Tantra, because I don't think everyone understands what it is, and you are one of the world leaders in teaching other people to teach Tantra. And so talk a little bit about that. What is Tantra? When you teach it, what is it like? And how did you end up doing it?
I ended up starting Tantra over 20 years ago. It was as a result of a breakup of a woman I was engaged to.
Oh.
And I started to do a lot of soul searching and feeling like I was inadequate at sex. And I was looking for solutions. And so I went to a Tantra class in the early 90s, and ended up having a woman on my lap, and we were breathing together. I'd never met her before. We're doing this whole thing, and it was like, wow, this is possible. I felt like I just went to like they took me out of 6th grade and stuck me in high school. and so here I am having this experience of real intimacy and connection with somebody. I thought, I want more of this. So I started hiring tantrikas or tantra teachers to come privately coach me.
That's
and
great.
So we did kind of fire breath orgasm practices, and a lot of it was, for me, it was like when I would see someone next to me, the tantrika would be having these non-touching orgasms. She'd start having orgasms just with her breath. And I was like, is this real? Is this really happening? And after a few years of practice, I started having these I don't know how you call it, even without an erection, I was having these powerful orgasmic experiences. And I went like, this is real. This stuff is real. So I went to a Tantra teacher training. And I started to learn how to teach Tantra, and I started to learn how to have more of these different kinds of experiences. And then within about a year, the teacher of the teacher training asked me to teach with her. So now we were traveling to different places in Europe and here in the US teaching Tantra. And so that, for me, that was like, wow, this is what I really love to do. Here I am in a place where I'm helping people overcome their own insecurities and their own feeling of inadequacy in bed, and just expanding to a place where they're having powerful sexual experiences with their partner and with themselves. So to me, it was like a dream come true to start doing this kind of work.
One of the things that I love about Tantra, and Tantra embodies a lot of intimate connection, really looking your partner in the eyes, creating sacred spaces together, using your breath, touch techniques, presence, really being in the moment, not thinking about other things. And those are all the hallmarks of a good lover. Intimate, connected, touch, breath, eyes. And so I think that Tantra is the modern day romantic, physical, intimate, connected, love-making experience, the erotic rapture that people are longing for, that romance novels touch upon, that porn never treads near, that allows us to connect our souls together as one to really find God in the orgasmic path, God, source, whatever you want to call it, Gaia, whatever energy, whatever's the right word for your upbringing. And I think it is it's really that soul of sex connection. And so that's one of the other reasons that I really appreciate you being a part of our coaching program, is because you come from that 20 years of training other people to teach. You're at the top of the pyramid of that erotic, soul-connected, love-making techniques, practices, understanding. And that's very exciting exciting. Very, very exciting. So that is a big part of who you are. You're just your ease of personality and what a nice man you are, and that you're funny and silly and embodied and you've got lots of energy. I love that about you. But I also really appreciate your credentials. So, talk a little bit about your coaching credentials, because I think that's important as well.
Yeah, when I started teaching more Tantra, and I was I did a workshop in New York City, and a couple of coaches were in my workshop. This is maybe 10 years ago or so. And after the workshop, I did private sessions with people. I did several of those, and I started to talk to the coaches, about what I was doing, and they were like, "Oh, that's coaching." And I had not really heard of coaching before. So I thought, oh, well, I need to learn more about coaching people. So I went back to coaching school, the Coaches Training Institute here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I went through their whole coaching program and then got certified as a professional certified coach. So for me, that was really helpful in not just in working with specific sexual issues, but to include the whole coaching technique spectrum, because there's a lot of times when I'm working with people on a sexual issue and they'll say like, wow, that same issue is coming up in my business around confidence or whatever. I'm like, oh, there's a reason for that. Yeah. We're a hologram, right? We're like, if things show up in one area, it definitely is going to be appearing in another. So to be able to have the capability of working with people in their whole lives, not just the sex, and to see how, okay, we're making these changes in sex, here's how it's going to reflect in your whole life. So for me, that coaching training was really important.
Yeah, I appreciate the professional accreditation. Not every coach has it or needs it, but it's a really nice thing to have. Yeah. I was recently reading the works of an unusual man named Wilhelm Reich. I know you know who he is. He was one of Sigmund Freud's devotees and psychotherapy inner circle. And he had some very unusual, he's quite a kook in some ways, but in another way, he believed that if you didn't have what he called orgastic potency. And maybe even say orgiastic potency if you were saying it like exactly how it's spelled. If you didn't have the ability to have really good orgasms, that you would develop neuroses. Now, he had a whole list of things that were neuroses that came from not being able to have, really great orgasms. He also felt that having the expression, being able to express that orgasm with your body was a way of rebooting your nervous system, a way of like just kind of almost cleansing yourself at a cellular level. And I know there are a lot of people who really struggle with that full expression of their orgasmic potential. And I know that for many people, once they are able to achieve orgasm, and even for you, I know with Multi-Orgasmic Lover, one of your programs, an online program that a person can work themselves through at their own speed, you teach men how to have male multiple orgasm. A lot of guys don't even know they can have multiple orgasms,
And that doesn't mean ejaculating multiple times.
Exactly. That's the full body orgasm, the orgasmic experience without ejaculation, separating ejaculation and orgasm. So you can have multiple orgasms when you're making love with a woman or even when you're having solo sex, which is another important thing, is developing your abilities yourself so that when you are in the bedroom, you have some skills. And I know you work with a lot of guys on overcoming porn addictions and male multiple orgasm and lasting longer. That's a big part of your work, stamina and erectile, I don't like to say dysfunction. I say like erectile potential, ejaculatory choice, these are better words, better phrases for what's possible for guys and where they are and where they want to be. And one of the things that I've noticed over and over again as we've helped people for the last 6 years at Personal Life Media, and why I'm so excited for coaching, is that people who are able to get through a program themselves and achieve another level of their own sexual potential, they say that that helps them in every other aspect of their lives, because as you called it, we're holographic, where it isn't, once you begin to get centered in yourself and have orgasmic awakenings of your own body, there's something that it drops you in to the universe. You feel more connected to all other people. You feel more, there's something about feeling more human. You feel more confident. Your self-esteem is better. Your physical health is better. That release that comes from the orgasmic, whatever you would call it, contraction and expansion, all of those things, they help in every other aspect of your life. And I think that's something that not everyone really fully understands, how powerful it is when you get a handle on your own sexuality, when you start to get that confidence about your own sexuality, it really makes your whole life better.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's a never-ending upward pleasure spiral, it's a way to connect with yourself, with other, and with God, and that it creates this incredible positive force in your whole life. It's like, wow, why would you not prioritize that above almost anything else that you could do besides getting to work and loving your people and, feeding yourself well and paying your taxes? If you got to do that, you got to do that, And so I
have to say those are the best people I work with, are the people who have that level of enthusiasm that you're expressing right now, or their willingness. Like the people I want to work with have got such a drive that to explore this part of themselves and this drive to improve, so that when I give them a homework assignment or we're talking about what to do, they are doing it.
Yeah.
So when I meet people like that, I am like a dog to a biscuit. I'm like,
and not a dog to replace your passionate sex life either.
Oh man, I am like, just give me those people, because with those people, like I can just totally change their lives, because the willingness is so powerful. Like, I love that.
I love that too. So if you're one of those people and you liked what we had to talk about today, please feel free to fill out a coaching application on the website link that came along with this video, and see if you'd like to work with Jim. And you're available. You get a free consultation with Jim, where you kind of do your application, Jim reviews it, and then he comes to you and you two talk and come up with a game plan, a little bit of okay, I've seen this before, and here's what we're going to do. So anything else that you want to add, Jim, beyond that? Because I feel like we've done an awesome job together today with this. No surprise.
I just know that I'm my happiest when I am coaching people and when I'm leading groups and doing this work that I love so much. And there's something other than, say, having sex, but the teaching about it and the helping people awaken to who they really are, like we've been talking to. Yeah. So beyond all the crap that's been put on them for so many years, it's like to break through that. When I see people like the little shoots coming up through the concrete, the sprout coming up and then growing into a beautiful plant. Like, nothing satisfies me more than that. I feel like I'm making such a contribution to the world and to people's lives. So this is really what I love to do and why I'm here.
Me too, and you helped me expand my ability to do that in such a great way. So if we can help you, it would be our honor. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jim Benson.
Thank you.
All right.